We are deeply thankful for each and every one of you watching. Share with us in the comments. Where in the world are you tuning in from? We want to hear your voices. Now, let's begin. From the outside, Logan Parker's life seemed flawless. A steady job, a cozy downtown Chicago apartment, and a fiancée, Madison Cole, who had claimed his heart 5 years before. Together they laughed, they dreamed, and they built a future that felt unshakable, solid, and full of promise. Madison's parents adored Logan, embracing him as one of their own. When they gifted the couple $50,000 for their wedding, Logan saw it as far more than money. It was faith, responsibility, and a future entrusted to him with unwavering belief. He treated that gift with reverence, opening a new savings account linked solely to Madison's car for deposits. He crafted a spreadsheet so meticulous it accounted for every flower, every candle, and every slice of cake. Madison would tease him for his obsessive planning, but deep down, she admired the security it brought to their shared dreams. Their evenings fell into a rhythm. Logan would return from his finance office, loosen his tie, and join Madison at their small wooden kitchen table. Coffee in hand, they discussed color palettes, guest lists, and honeymoon destinations. Madison would rest her chin on her palm and ask, "Do you think we'll ever get tired of each other?" Logan would smile, his answer always the same, always certain. Not a chance. But then the cracks began to appear, subtle, almost imperceptible at first. Madison's late-night texts, her phone always flipped face down. Harper, her best friend, whispering in corners at family dinners. Madison's sudden obsession with looking flawless, even for a casual trip to the grocery store. Logan dismissed it as wedding stress. After all, hadn't they promised to build this life together? Then came the Thursday morning that shattered everything. Logan woke to a flood of bank alerts, his chest tightening as he scrolled through the notifications. A $20,000 charge at a luxury Las Vegas hotel, $9,000 at a nightclub, thousands more at designer boutiques. In just days, the account was empty. At first, he clung to denial, maybe fraud, maybe a stolen card. But then he saw the video. Harper had posted it on her story. Madison in a glittering red dress, champagne in hand, dancing with a man whose hands were far too familiar on her waist. The caption read, "Bachelorette trip done right." Logan's world tilted. Madison hadn't gone on a spa retreat like she'd told him. She had flown to Vegas, blown through every dollar, and wrapped herself around another man. He didn't cry. He didn't rage. He sat in silence, a cold stillness spreading through him. His revenge wasn't forming from fury, but from clarity. Logan didn't rush to call Madison. He didn't storm her messages or demand an explanation. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, staring at the bank app glowing on his phone. $50,000, gone in 4 days. The cold clarity inside him hardened into something sharper, a plan. The first step was simple. He called a locksmith. By noon, every lock on the apartment door had been replaced. By evening, Madison's closet was stripped down to the essentials: clothes, toiletries, her laptop, packed neatly into a duffel bag he placed by the door. Logan left the apartment almost eerily clean, as if preparing it for a new tenant. But the silence mocked him. His mind replayed the Vegas video on loop. Madison's laugh, once his favorite sound, now cut like broken glass. Worse than the money was the betrayal etched in her body language. The way she leaned into that man, the way she kissed his cheek in the background of Harper's clip. This wasn't some innocent party. This was intimacy. Intimacy she had promised only to him. That night, Logan couldn't sleep. He sat at the table, staring at the spreadsheet he had once been so proud of. Rows of deposits and expenses blurred into meaningless numbers. With a single keystroke, he deleted the entire file. Then he opened another document, one not for planning a wedding, but for documenting every detail of her betrayal. He saved screenshots of the Vegas charges, Harper's posts, and timestamps of every purchase. He wasn't sure yet how he would use it, but he knew one thing: Madison would never see him as weak. The following evening, he called her parents. Elaine and Richard Cole had always been kind, treating him like a son. Elaine answered with her usual warmth, but Logan's tone was grave. "Elaine, please get Richard. You both need to hear this together." When they were on the line, Logan laid everything out, his voice steady, almost clinical. "The account is drained. Here are the charges. I have proof Madison was in Las Vegas, and I have footage." The silence that followed was suffocating. Elaine's voice cracked first. "Are you certain? Could this be some mistake?" Logan's jaw tightened. "I wish it were. But there's no mistake. She lied to me. She lied to you. And she emptied everything we were given." On the other end, Richard's breathing grew heavy. His words landed like steel. "Logan, do what you need to do. We'll speak with her. This is beyond forgiveness." The call ended, leaving Logan in the dim apartment, staring at Madison's framed photo on the bookshelf. He plucked it down, opened the frame, and slid the picture into a drawer. For the first time in years, her smile no longer belonged on his walls. 2 days later, she returned. The sound of her key scratching against the new lock brought a grim satisfaction. She tried once, twice, then banged on the door. "Logan, my key isn't working. Open up." He stood on the other side, arms crossed. "It won't work. The locks are changed." A stunned pause, followed by laughter laced with irritation. "You've got to be kidding me. You're locking me out because I went on a trip?" "It was a bachelorette weekend. Logan, every bride does it." His voice stayed even. "Every bride doesn't burn through $50,000 of her parents' gift. Every bride doesn't wrap herself around another man while lying to her fiancé." Her tone softened, shifting from anger to pleading. "It was one weekend, just a little fun before the wedding. We can move past this." Logan stepped closer to the door, his words cutting through. "No, Madison, you didn't just waste money. You wasted trust, and that's something you'll never earn back." Before she could respond, headlights washed across the windows. A car door slammed, then another. Voices carried. Richard's sharp tone pierced the air. "Madison, step away from that door." She turned, startled. "Dad, Mom, why are you here?" Elaine's footsteps grew closer, her voice filled with hurt. "We saw everything, Madison. The charges, the video. How could you do this?" Madison's voice cracked into defensiveness. "It was my party. Everyone does something wild before marriage. Why shouldn't I?" Richard's reply was cold, almost lifeless. "Because it wasn't your money. It was our trust, and you shattered it." Her defiance wavered. She spun back toward the door, maybe hoping Logan would unlock it, give her a lifeline. But he stood silent, unmoved. Elaine touched her daughter's arm gently. "It's done. Time to go." For a flicker of a moment, Madison's face revealed something raw. Not rage, but fear. Still, she obeyed. She followed her parents back to the car, her voice trailing into the night. Logan stood there, forehead resting against the door. His heart ached, not for what was lost, but for what he had almost stepped into, a marriage built on lies, a life tied to betrayal. Yet he wasn't finished. Revenge wasn't about yelling in the street or throwing her things out the window. It was about precision, and Logan had only just begun. The apartment had never been quieter. For the first time in years, Logan could hear his own thoughts without the constant hum of Madison's chatter filling the air. But the silence didn't last. By the next morning, his phone buzzed relentlessly. Madison's best friend, Harper, had taken to social media, posting a long dramatic story painting Madison as the victim of a controlling, toxic fiancé. Pictures of Madison in Vegas were recaptured with captions like "a strong woman breaking free" and "men fear women who know their worth." Strangers, people Logan had never met, flung insults at him in the comments. Words like coward, abuser, and weak flooded his feed. Logan didn't respond. He didn't delete, didn't block. He let silence speak louder than any defense. Yet, as the hours passed, a fire burned deeper inside him. Madison hadn't just betrayed him. Now, she was rewriting the story to destroy his reputation. 3 days later, a thick envelope arrived in his mailbox, stamped with a lawyer's letterhead. Inside was a claim accusing Logan of causing Madison emotional distress and financial instability by ending their engagement. It cited their years of living together as grounds for a domestic partnership, giving her supposed rights to shared assets. Madison was demanding $60,000 as a settlement. Logan read every word twice. Then, instead of anger, a slow, measured smile tugged at his lips. If Madison wanted a war, she had no idea who she was dealing with. That night, he sat at his laptop, drafting his response. He didn't rant, didn't get personal. He stayed calm, professional, precise. He attached bank records showing every charge Madison had made in Vegas, screenshots of Harper's posts with Madison in the arms of another man, and finally, a signed statement from her parents confirming the $50,000 gift was meant for wedding expenses only, not reckless indulgence. His reply to the lawyer was short and sharp. Any attempt to pursue this baseless claim will result in a harassment countersuit and a formal complaint to the state bar. The financial losses were solely your client's doing, and the evidence is overwhelming. Consider this matter resolved. After hitting send, Logan leaned back and exhaled slowly. This wasn't just about clearing his name, it was about turning Madison's lies against her. The following week, the war escalated. Logan answered a knock on his door one evening to find 2 uniformed police officers standing with Madison just behind them, arms crossed, her face arranged into a wounded expression. "Sir," one officer began, "we've received a report suggesting you may have unlawfully evicted your fiancée. She claims this is still her place of residence." Logan stayed composed. "Officers, the lease is in my name only. Would you like to see the documentation?" He calmly laid the lease paperwork on the table. Then, almost as if rehearsed, he handed them the same evidence he had sent the lawyer: the bank statements, screenshots, and parental letter. One officer flipped through the documents, his face hardening with each page. Finally, he turned to Madison. "Ma'am, this isn't an unlawful eviction. This is a civil dispute. If you wish to contest it, you'll need to file in court." Madison's polished front cracked. "You don't understand. He's leaving me with nothing." "Ma'am?" The officer cut her off firmly. "You need to leave the premises now." Her face twisted in anger and humiliation, but she had no choice. Logan closed the door behind them, his heartbeat steady. He wasn't gloating, wasn't triumphant. He was simply free. The days that followed revealed just how quickly Madison's house of cards collapsed. Word spread about her Vegas trip, not the version Harper tried to spin, but the truth. Vendors she had promised to pay began chasing her for unpaid deposits. Friends who once cheered her on started to distance themselves, unwilling to be tied to her chaos. Her relationship with Harper soured too. Screenshots leaked of their bitter arguments, each blaming the other for the disaster, each hurling accusations that they had been the reason everything unraveled. Meanwhile, Logan focused on rebuilding. He sold the couch Madison had once picked out, replaced the photos on the walls, and reclaimed the apartment as his own. Nights that once felt suffocating now brought peace. He ate dinners alone, but there was calm in that solitude. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like he was performing for someone else's expectations. But revenge, true revenge, still lingered unfinished. Logan wasn't out for drama. He wasn't out for cruelty. What he wanted was impact. A strike that wouldn't just silence Madison's lies, but remind her of what she had thrown away. So, he began with patience. He waited as her reputation crumbled, as her friendships dried up, as her parents' disappointment became public knowledge. Only then did he make his move. Logan contacted the wedding vendors directly, not to demand refunds, but to explain everything, providing proof of Madison's betrayal. He didn't ask them to forgive her debts. He simply let the truth circulate. Soon, word spread through the local business community. Madison Cole was reckless, untrustworthy, and dishonest. For someone who thrived on image and appearances, it was a deeper cut than any public argument could have achieved. Logan knew revenge didn't always mean destroying someone loudly. Sometimes it meant letting them destroy themselves and making sure everyone could see it. And Madison was doing just that. Weeks passed, and the fallout grew heavier for Madison. Vendors called her daily, some even visiting her at the salon where she had taken a receptionist job. Rumors spread through the small community that she owed thousands and had no way of paying. Her once polished image was gone. Whispers followed her everywhere. But Logan wasn't done. He hadn't shouted, hadn't cursed, hadn't broken her down directly. He had been patient, and patience, he knew, often struck harder than rage. One evening, while sipping coffee at his kitchen table, Logan made his final move. He drafted a simple but devastating email, one sent not to Madison, but to the boutique where she once proudly worked and where she still leaned on her reputation. He attached the records, the Vegas photos, and the unpaid vendor bills. The subject line was blunt: "For your awareness." He didn't need to explain. The evidence spoke louder than any accusation. Within days, Madison was quietly let go. The boutique couldn't risk its name being tied to her scandal. When word reached Logan through mutual acquaintances, he felt no thrill of triumph, just a calm certainty. Revenge wasn't about watching her collapse. It was about ensuring she could never twist the truth again. But fate had one more scene to play. 6 months later, on a gray Tuesday morning, Logan ducked into a cafe before work. As he waited for his order, he noticed a woman at the counter, digging through her purse with trembling hands. Her coat was thin, her hair tied back carelessly, her makeup almost non-existent. Madison. She hadn't seen him yet. She handed the cashier a crumpled handful of small bills and coins, just enough for the cheapest coffee on the menu. Logan stood still, taking in the sight. The confident woman who once twirled in a sequin dress with champagne in her hand was gone. In her place stood someone hollowed by her own choices. Then she looked up and froze. Their eyes met. For a moment, the room seemed to still. Her lips parted, and she managed a strange smile. "Logan," she whispered, stepping closer. Do you have a minute to talk?" He didn't flinch. "There's nothing left to say." Her voice wavered. "I know I made mistakes. I was stupid. I thought maybe we could—" "No." His tone was calm, final, unshaken. "You made your choices and I made mine. This is where it ends." Her eyes glistened, but Logan didn't stay to watch. He picked up his coffee, brushed past her, and walked out into the crisp morning air. There was no anger in him, no gloating, only peace. Back home, tucked away in the bottom drawer of his desk, he kept a single reminder: the bank statement showing the $50,000 deposit, followed by the reckless Vegas charges. He hadn't saved it out of spite. He saved it as proof, for himself. That trust could vanish in an instant. That dignity mattered more than vengeance shouted in public. Sometimes the strongest revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was simply moving forward, while the other person drowned in the weight of their own actions. Logan had done just that. And as the months rolled on, he found himself smiling again. Not because Madison had fallen, but because he had risen, untouched, unbroken, and finally free.